Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hospital Marketing National podcast. I am your host, Patrick Bender, and on this podcast, we will be hearing from leaders in the hospital marketing space about what makes a great campaign, how you can define success, and where hospital marketing is headed. On this episode, we have some great guests joining us. We have Bill Lepler, the Director of Marketing Analytics, Marketing and Digital Channels from the City of Hope National Medical Center, and Andy Semons, the founding partner and head of strategy from Interplanetary. Andy and Bill have actually been doing work with each other for some time now. A little background on Bill. Bill has spent many years in CRM and marketing analytics. He's worked with brands such as HBO, J. Crew, Ogilvy, Limited Brands, Yahoo, and TrueCar. Andy has been working for two decades now in healthcare, building communications between healthcare providers and patients. He has also played a major role at Ogilvy Healthcare Practice, where he has built and subsequently launched a vast portfolio of direct-to-consumer brands. Bill and Andy, I appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedules to join us. I guess to start us off, Bill, do you mind just giving a little bit more information on City of Hope and what you guys do?
Sure. City of Hope National Medical Center is an NCI-designated cancer and diabetes hospital and research institution in the Los Angeles area. In 2015, we launched the first ever integrated marketing campaign in the institution's 102-year history. Simultaneously, the marketing analytics department was created, tasked with measuring patient acquisition, online donations, and brand awareness through marketing.
Great. And Andy, if you mind just filling us in on Interplanetary and how you guys work with City of Hope.
Sure. First of all, Interplanetary, we are pretty much a multidisciplinary creative agency located here in New York, and we are founded by 5 partners. We'd like to say that we love the craft of advertising. I am one of those partners. We all have a history of launching some big brands and big campaigns at places like Ogilvy and Y&R and McCann Erickson and Ammirati and Purist. And what we have come to discover that we love is making integrated national campaigns, brand campaigns, in the healthcare and nonprofit sector. Also, we have some financial service clients as well. So what we like to do is to work in complex categories like healthcare and take these information-rich categories and make them understandable to the general population through compelling, broad messages with that are based on very deep consumer insights.
Great. So, Andy, I guess this question's for you. How would you come up with great creative campaigns? I guess in terms of working with City of Hope, what would you do in that regard when you're approaching a project that City of Hope has put in front of you? How are you coming up with a great creative campaign?
Well, the funny thing is, Patrick, the process, that we would use for City of Hope or for any nonprofit or healthcare client is very much the same rigorous process that's used outside the category. It begins with discovery, which is, and by that I mean understanding your client's strengths and weaknesses, understanding what are the perceptions of the organization among key target audiences. In the case of City of Hope, it's patients and donors and caregivers, and understanding how you can make those perceptual shifts. What are the truths that you need to basically convey about the organization and the perceptions that you need to challenge. Within that, it always behooves you to do a little bit of research, and we did that for City of Hope as well. We understood that in the case of City of Hope, most targets who were aware of City of Hope knew that it was a place known for compassion, because very few people knew about the long history of scientific innovation that the organization had. So we had to differentiate City of Hope as a brand and let people know that there were amazing discoveries that were going on here, and that is one of the reasons why the people were getting cured and getting well. So that's pretty much one of the core things that we had to do.
Right.
So from doing that research or understanding that process, we then had to kind of get to some fundamental insight that we were going to base the communication on. So you have to tell a complete story. People look at City of Hope and they understand that this is a place that saves lives, but we have to let people understand that it's not just coming from compassion alone. It comes from compassion joining forces with cutting-edge science. And we needed to find a better way to kind of bring that story together.
Andy, what was your creative process?
We gave our creative team a roadmap based on those ideas, and in fact, we were inspired by something that we heard from some patient focus groups that we had done. It was curious that over and over again, patients referred to themselves, if they had recovered from cancer, as miracles. Not in a spiritual sense,
right,
more in a scientific sense, right? That people would say, "I'm a miracle," or "It's a miracle that I'm actually here today and that I'm sitting before you." In many ways, when we came up with the fundamental idea for the campaign, which is called "The Miracle of Science with Soul," the campaign wrote itself. It communicated that medical miracles happen,
right,
and this marriage of science with soul soul represented kind of the fire in the belly and the compassion that drove people to better discovery, and the scientific discoveries themselves. When you put those two things together, you kind of get almost an equation that shows that it's about the drive that people have to make this possible, and it's about the science that actually moves it forward as well.
Great. That's great, because at the end of the day, you're trying to help City of Hope, and the patients that might be looking for a place like City of Hope come together. So I think merging those two things definitely sounds quite important. Bill, question for you: How would you define the success of that type of campaign? What kind of tools do you guys use to go back and look at and determine whether or not it was successful or not?
Well, first of all, it's important to realize that hospitals are very data-centric and they're highly analytic, but when it comes to marketing, they're not nearly as sophisticated. So we had to take our management through an education process to understand how we create goals and how we measure them. So we used modeling to create our marketing goals. We developed a statistical model and did forecasting to help with these projections, so we could set the bar reasonably. So, for instance, every percentage increase in awareness correlates to a certain increase in the amount of return in terms of new patient acquisition or online donations. When we went through the process, we discovered great data fragmentation. And it's a guarantee that marketing data for a healthcare provider is going to be pretty much fragmented across many domains. So one of the first things we did is consolidate and automate our data as soon as possible.
Okay.
Now, you had mentioned tools. There are several business intelligence tools out there, examples being Tableau and Alteryx, that will help you consolidate your data without having to go through the bureaucracy of involving the IT department. The second thing we did is we developed a visual marketing dashboard designed for senior management to socialize our data. Psychologically, an online dashboard indicates you're on top of things rather than emailing PowerPoint decks.
Right.
So what did we look at? Patient acquisition, discharges, and outpatient visits. We socialized the concept of marketing estimates, that these are not precise numbers as you would measure in a clinical trial, but in the number of patients acquired through marketing. And it's both an art and a science. So following up on that point, the lesson learned, our head of clinical research said that any marketing estimate should include a confidence interval, as in a scientific experiment, not just the number.
Right.
So the plus minus degree of variability in the result. And we translated those numbers into contribution margin to show ROI.
That's not always a very easy thing to do, Patrick. It's Andy, and I just wanted to kind of add something in when you measure the effectiveness of a marketing campaign, because there are many independent variables.
For sure.
Including, let's say, how much a competitor is spending, which will change, from period to period and impact the model. One of the other things that we do is a brand tracker, all right, which is an online survey in the patient and donor and caregiver communities. And we measure, a tracking study normally measures awareness, attitudes over time, and some sort of behavior, because ultimately there's a progression here. People become aware of you, then all of a sudden they start thinking of you differently once they've seen the advertising, and then they want to act differently. Now, patient data was one thing where you actually had people coming in, but one of the intent measures that we looked at in the tracking study was intent to donate, because City of Hope is also a nonprofit and people could fund cancer research through City of Hope.
Right.
So the goal there was to increase awareness and enhance perceptions and build behaviors primarily within Southern California, but also nationally. And we would do this tracking as an ongoing barometer. What we do is we'd go out and we'd measure right after the holiday push, when there was always a very heavy advertising read.
Yeah.
And also, again, about 6 months later, when things were relatively quiet and all the holiday hype had kind of died down. So there's that benchmark and those successive waves, which also got folded into Bill's dashboard.
Man, that's all great.
So another fact.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I want to hear what you got.
Okay. So another factor of success is online donations. So in the DMAs where we advertise, online donations outpace those where we don't advertise. So advertising provides the air cover so that our philanthropy group can gain contributions on the ground. So it provides a marketing halo effect, and also, a rising tide lifts all boats. So putting it all together, transparency of metrics is critical. We report monthly to our team and senior management. We created a marketing dashboard, an online repository of over 15 key metrics, accessible on demand to the team. And in dealing with data-intense, precise people, such as doctors and scientists, we find that it's a plus and a minus. On the positive side, they understand biostatistics, but they don't understand statistics viewed through the lens of marketing. So we have an extra burden or pleasure of being an educator on what good marketing results are.
Okay. Man, that is all great stuff. It definitely seems like it takes a lot to measure the success of a campaign, but it sounds like City of Hope and Interplanetary, you guys working together are able to not only create a successful campaign, but are able to track that success over the course of time. You guys were both talking about this age of digital. I think you guys both mentioned it. Speaking of the changing of times, where do you guys see hospitals having to change themselves in terms of their marketing over the next decade or so in order to keep up with the times and some of the changing trends in healthcare marketing? And either one of you guys can go ahead and answer this. If not, both of you guys, I would love to hear your thoughts.
I'm sure we both have opinions on it, but I think hospitals are really starting to see themselves as brands. What City of Hope is doing is actually pretty innovative in the category, but we're seeing more and more competition when we track. within LA and also nationally. So what happens is if you're basically talking about the two things, we care about our patients, and then we care about, and we have scientific innovation if you're actually a research center. I think what's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years is you're going to start seeing even further differentiation. So how do you do that? Well, truth of the matter is every work environment, every hospital has something kind of unique about it. So I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more personality, if you will, infused into advertising. You're going to start seeing, you're going to start understanding, let's say, foundational expertise or what the core competencies actually are in a much warmer kind of more telegraphic way, so that people can really understand that. I mean, can a hospital have a personality? What can it actually own? And I think it's going to start pushing out along those lines.
So I think they are going to be reaching out beyond their home markets and national, and go more towards national standing and ranking. In other words, reputation. And reputation is important in some of the ranking programs out there, like U.S. News and World Report ranking of hospitals. This is critical because it serves a twofold purpose. It attracts top talent in the field. If they haven't heard about you, you're not going to get the best doctors and researchers, and also helps in profitable partnerships such as clinical trials.
I think also one of the other things which we can't forget is the notion of what's called in the field CRM, or customer relationship management.
Yeah.
I think that over time, hospitals will have to get a lot smarter about holding on to the donors and the people that they have conversations actually with. It's not just about, saying, okay, we take care of this or that disease, and if you want to fund research, give. It's about being more transparent, arming these people with information, teaching them to become advocates, and getting them to really be more involved and energized. Because as the market heats up and gets more and more competitive, you're going to find that those people can be very easily wooed away. And I think many institutions care about holding on to their donor base.
And I think at the end of the day, we can all agree that it's all about the patient getting the best care possible for whatever problems they might have. And it definitely sounds like you guys are right on the dot when it comes to the competitiveness of the market, and how important it is for hospitals to really stand out. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add on that, or
Los Angeles is a tough market. When you actually kind of get in and you understand and you do the focus groups and the research, there are many different choices that somebody in the Los Angeles metropolitan area has.
Right.
So that notion of going to the place where there is the best expertise and where they're really going to get well, and very often that does correlate with cutting edge research. Where do I have a community where, let's say, a doctor and a researcher and somebody who's actually got a new idea can all come together for the benefit of the patient? That becomes first and foremost in the patient's mind. So patients and caregivers are not, they're not ignorant. They're very well educated, and they do their research and they do their homework. So I think the more transparent you can become, the more you'll kind of raise the level of what's out there, and the better you'll end up doing.
Yeah.
Right, and I also think building your reputation on compassionate care is critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not to forget that actually it pays off. I don't know, Bill, did you want to share any of the data with Patrick? But ultimately, we've been able to, in a very crowded market, we've been able to grow, which has been great.
No,
significant number of new patients visited City of Hope last year. There was an 8% growth in inpatient visits and a 17% growth in outpatient visits due to marketing.
Wow. That's huge. You're seeing, too, that people aren't just going to the hospital right around the corner from their house. They're definitely getting out there and finding the best possible care, and you can see it in those numbers. Definitely impressive. Gentlemen, I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedule to join me. Bill Lepler, Director of Marketing Analytics, Marketing and Digital Channels, City of Hope National Medical Center, and Andy Semons, the founding partner and head of strategy from Interplanetary. Guys, once again, really appreciate your time, and looking forward to talking again down the line.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
We love your input on great hospital marketing as well. Please email me to participate in our show with your thoughts at patrick@dtcperspectives.com. And please don't forget about our great event, the Hospital Marketing National Conference, which takes place here in Atlanta, June 5th through the 6th of 2018. We'll have great speakers like these presenting their approaches to marketing, what works and what doesn't, case studies, market research, plus awards for some of the best hospital marketing campaigns and hospital marketers in the industry. You can get more information on that at www.hmnconference.com. For all of us here at DTC Perspectives, thanks for listening to the Hospital Marketing National Podcast. I'm Patrick Bender, and I'm looking forward to having you listen to our next show with more great speakers and great content. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.